picture this. You're sitting at your desk, just, staring at yet another calendar invite for a corporate alignment meeting that
Let me guess. One that frankly could have been an email.
exactly, an email. And you're really feeling the weight of the 9 to 5 grind? Or maybe you're on a completely different path. You're already an entrepreneur, maybe you're an existing franchise owner, and you're hunting for that next strategic multi-unit expansion to really build out your portfolio.
Right, you want to scale up.
Yeah, but every single time you evaluate the traditional food space, you run into the exact same massive hurdle, which is commercial real estate. I mean, you look at the exhaustive build-out costs, the endless local permitting delays, the 10-year leases, and honestly, just the sheer anxiety of opening a brick-and-mortar location.
Yeah.
You're essentially crossing your fingers, hoping the neighborhood foot traffic actually materializes.
It is such a capital-intensive approach. It requires this massive leap of faith. I mean, when you sign a 10-year commercial lease and invest heavily in a physical build-out, you are essentially anchoring your entire business to a single piece of concrete.
Yeah, you're stuck there.
Exactly. You're betting that the demographics of that specific intersection are going to remain favorable for a full decade, and that the community will just consistently choose to walk through your front doors. It's a highly localized, but really passive strategy for customer acquisition.
But what if you could fundamentally flip that script? Like, what if, instead of waiting for the customers to come to you, you engineered a business model where you take the storefront directly to the crowd? So today, our mission is to execute a deep dive into the business model, the history, and the, honestly, highly unusual unit economics of the Repicci's Real Italian Ice and Gelato franchise opportunity.
It's a fascinating model to look into.
It really is. And we want to look way past the surface-level idea of just selling frozen treats. Our goal is to uncover the underlying mechanics of a highly scalable, mobile-first franchise model. Okay, let's unpack this, because to truly understand why this business functions the way it does today, we actually have to rewind the clock over a full century to look at the product itself.
Which is absolutely the necessary starting point. In the food franchise industry, the most sophisticated financial spreadsheets or, operational models are essentially meaningless if the core product isn't fundamentally exceptional. The product is your ultimate foundation for customer retention.
Right.
Because if the offering doesn't generate organic demand, all the mobile agility in the world won't save the business. We really have to understand the product's origin to understand its staying power.
Yeah, and the origin story here traces back to 1911. We're looking at Dominic Francesco Repicci. He immigrates from Messina, Italy, to America, specifically settling in South Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And he doesn't arrive with, like, a venture-backed business plan.
No, not at all.
He brings an old-world family recipe for authentic Italian ice. And he just starts sharing this with friends and neighbors. And according to the sources we reviewed, the demand became so overwhelming in his local community that he found himself producing it constantly just to keep up with the requests.
Which is, from a business analysis standpoint, that is the purest form of market validation. It wasn't formulated in some corporate test kitchen based on quarterly flavor trends.
Yeah, no focus groups here.
Exactly. It was born from genuine sustained demand in a real local neighborhood. But the critical analytical question is, how does a brand take a hyper-local 1911 family recipe and turn that into a scalable franchise product without losing that artisan authenticity?
And that is exactly where the narrative shifts from a local neighborhood story to a really smart supply chain strategy. So fast forward to 1998. It is still a family business, but Dominic's grandson, Frank, takes that original passion and operationalizes it.
Right, the transition to scale.
Yeah, he opens a dedicated manufacturing plant in Tennessee. And initially, the goal was simply to supply concessions for parks and recreation facilities around Chattanooga. But today, that manufacturing operation is centralized in Selmer, Tennessee, and it produces this century-old recipe on a scale that meets a nationwide supply chain demand.
And that centralization is a vital operational detail for a prospective franchisee to understand. By manufacturing the product centrally in Tennessee and shipping it nationwide, the franchisor completely removes the burden of complex food production from the individual franchisee.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right, so the owner of the mobile unit isn't mixing raw ingredients or trying to replicate an artisan churning process in the back of a trailer. They are receiving a consistently perfect, finished product. Their sole focus just becomes distribution and customer experience.
Well, let's talk about the mechanics of that product, because it isn't just standard American ice cream. They are dealing in real Italian gelato and authentic Italian ice. And for those who might not know the structural difference, gelato is fundamentally distinct from ice cream. It is made with all natural ingredients and contains less fat.
And the texture is completely different.
Yes, because it's about the churn.
Hmm.
American ice cream is often pumped full of air to increase volume, which is, great for the manufacturer's profit margins, but it heavily dilutes the taste. Gelato is churned at a much slower rate, which introduces far less air, resulting in a denser texture and a much more intense, concentrated flavor profile.
It is a premium positioning, for sure, but what really stands out to me in the menu engineering isn't just the density of the gelato, it is the strategic inclusivity of the offerings. They have intentionally structured their menu around the concept of flavors for all ages,
Yeah,
which solves a massive operational headache in the food and beverage space.
I noticed that, yeah. They offer a huge range of gluten-free and dairy-free options.
Hmm.
I mean, we are looking at fan favorites like the sea salt caramel gelato, the new caramel apple gelati combos,
Right.
and the mango tango Italian ice. And we saw customer feedback raving about these specific flavors at local events.
Oh, yeah, people get really passionate about it.
Like there was one customer who mentioned a bomb pop flavor that provided this perfect blast of nostalgia at a neighborhood glow party. Another one specifically highlighted being able to get a dairy-free root beer float gelato.
What's fascinating here is the strategic advantage of addressing what industry insiders call the veto vote.
The veto vote.
Yeah, so when a group of people, say a family of 5 at a community festival, when they approach a food vendor, if even one person in that group has a dairy allergy or a gluten intolerance, that one person can veto the purchase for the entire family.
Ah, right, because they want to go somewhere everyone can eat.
Exactly. They will all walk away to find a vendor that can accommodate everyone. By offering high-quality dairy-free and gluten-free options alongside Italian blended coffees and hot chocolate, a franchisee systematically eliminates the veto vote. You maximize your addressable market at any given event, capturing revenue from every single person who walks up to your window, regardless of dietary restrictions.
That makes a lot of sense. It protects the transaction entirely. If we look at this from a broader perspective, we see a lot of flash-in-the-pan food trends today. Someone invents a viral donut hybrid. It blows up on social media. People rush to buy into the franchise. And then, 18 months later, the trend just dies out.
And the owners are left holding a 10-year lease on an empty store.
Yes. But this feels fundamentally different. You aren't just selling sugar and ice. You're leveraging a 100-year-old historical legacy. It's like having a century-old moat around your business.
Yeah.
You aren't just selling a trend. You're selling a legacy that can't be easily replicated by a competitor just opening up down the street.
A historical moat certainly secures the product side of the equation. It provides a narrative that consumers connect with. However, a highly demanded artisan product sitting in a centralized warehouse in Tennessee doesn't generate revenue.
Fair point.
We have to analyze how the franchise actually delivers this product to the end consumer. Which brings us to the evolution of their distribution model, where the transition from traditional real estate to mobile agility actually occurs.
Right. Looking at their timeline, franchising officially began in 2005. And at that point, the model was based entirely on seasonal pop-up tents at spring and summer events, which, seems like a logical starting point. Low initial overhead, an easy way to prove the concept in new markets, and a method for building local brand awareness.
It's a great way to start, but running a tent business comes with serious physical limitations.
Yeah, the labor of setting up, tearing down, maintaining health code compliance in a temporary setup, and just the physical toll on the operators. So the significant operational pivot happened in 2014 when they formally introduced mobile trailers to the franchise system.
That transition from stationary tents to mobile catering vehicles is really the linchpin of their current strategy. It finalized their go-to-the-customer methodology. They completely detached the revenue model from the reliance on passive foot traffic that brick-and-mortar stores depend on.
Let's explore the mechanics of that mobility. We're talking about taking these units to fairs, festivals, rodeos, family reunions, weddings, and large-scale corporate events. But I actually want to push back slightly on this concept.
Okay, go on.
Dealing with the logistics of hauling a trailer, maintaining a mobile unit, and constantly booking events seems incredibly labor-intensive. Why deal with food trucks when everyone else wants a drive-through? Why go through the effort of managing a mobile fleet when the rest of the fast casual industry is obsessively focused on optimizing a stationary window?
It is a totally fair question, but it comes down to the quality and intent of the customer traffic. Even the most optimized drive-through relies on the customer making a proactive, independent decision to leave their house, drive to your specific location, and make a purchase. You are still waiting for them. A mobile strategy proactively inserts the point of sale directly into an environment where the customer is already present, they're already in a celebratory mood, and they are already prepared to spend money.
Let me try to frame it with an analogy. Relying on traditional commercial real estate is essentially like a spider waiting in a web. You acquire a spot, you build your web by building out the store, and then you have to stay put and just hope for foot traffic.
Hoping something gets caught in the web.
Exactly. If the neighborhood demographics shift, your business might starve, but you can't move the web. The Repicci's model is more like a heat-seeking missile. You aren't tied down. If a particular festival or neighborhood dries up, you literally drive your storefront to wherever the highest concentration of hungry, happy people already is.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize the risk mitigation involved. Furthermore, consider the psychological environment of a festival, a rodeo, or a wedding. The consumer is already in a relaxed, open wallet mindset. They are there to indulge.
Right, they want a treat.
Exactly. By consistently operating in these environments, the brand organically associates itself with the concept of making good times better. You aren't just selling a midday snack. You are becoming part of a community celebration.
I totally see the value in that, but it raises another operational risk. What happens when the weather doesn't cooperate? I mean, a mobile event business is fantastic in July, but if you have a territory that experiences a rainy, cold spring, or you have a massive event that just gets washed out, doesn't your revenue simply drop to zero?
That seems like a massive vulnerability.
Right. For a franchise relying on weekend event traffic, that's scary.
It is the exact vulnerability inherent in most food truck models, and it is precisely why Repicci's engineered a parallel revenue stream to stabilize cash flow. They expanded into wholesale and prepackaged products. They offer the gelato and Italian ice in 6-ounce and 10-ounce prepackaged cups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this creates an entirely separate, recurring B2B revenue model for the franchisee.
So they aren't just relying on the window of the trailer.
Correct. While the mobile unit might be deployed at a large weekend festival, the franchisee can simultaneously be servicing wholesale accounts. They can partner with local school districts, hospital cafeterias, youth sports leagues, and corporate fundraising initiatives.
That's brilliant.
These prepackaged cups generate revenue in the background, rain or shine. It smooths out the seasonality and weather risks associated with the mobile trailer, providing a much more predictable financial baseline.
That makes the model significantly more robust. And we also need to look at how they are addressing the other major weakness of a mobile business, which is transience. The historical problem with food trucks is that a customer might have an amazing experience on a Saturday, but they have absolutely no idea where that truck will be on Tuesday.
Right, you lose the ability to build a daily habit.
Exactly. So how is this model bridging that gap?
They are bridging it through targeted technology, specifically mobile text marketing. They utilize SMS platforms to alert their established customer base to new flavor releases, special promotions, and critically, the real-time location of their mobile trucks.
Okay, so instead of the customer having to, hunt down a social media post, the brand is pushing a notification directly to their pocket.
Exactly. It transforms a transient interaction into a recurring relationship. By texting the local community that the trailer is parked at a specific high school football game or a local park for the afternoon, they manufacture their own foot traffic. They train their audience to look for those alerts, effectively turning a highly mobile asset into a habit-forming local staple.
Okay, so if we synthesize what we have discussed so far, we are looking at a 100-year-old, battle-tested, authentic product that solves the veto vote. We have an agile mobile distribution system that actively hunts down demand, stabilized by a secondary wholesale revenue stream, and supported by tech-enabled customer retention.
A very solid foundation.
But all of these operational strategies are purely theoretical if the financial requirements don't make sense for the investor. So we really need to look at the actual unit economics.
This is where the structural advantages of avoiding commercial real estate become mathematically obvious. Let's look at the barrier to entry. According to the franchise data, the total initial investment range to launch a Repicci's franchise is between $152,150 and $176,400.
Wait, to put that into industry context, that is incredibly accessible.
Highly accessible.
If an investor is looking at building out a standard quick-service restaurant or a fast-casual brick-and-mortar location, they're routinely facing minimum capital requirements of $500,000. And it frequently escalates well past $1 million once construction, permitting, and equipment are finalized. Launching under $180,000 completely changes the risk profile.
It really does. And the personal financial requirements reflect that lower barrier. They require a prospective franchisee to have a net worth of $250,000 and a cash requirement of $60,000. It is designed to be an approachable entry point.
Whether you are a corporate professional looking to transition into business ownership or an existing investor seeking to diversify.
Exactly, without tying up seven figures of capital. And the system currently supports over 40 franchises operating nationwide.
Well, I understand the low barrier to entry based on the mobile model, but when I was reviewing the financial documentation, I found a metric regarding their ongoing fees that honestly made me pause. And I want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly because it fundamentally alters the long-term wealth potential for the owner.
Let's hear it.
The data states that the ongoing royalty fees are capped at up to $3,000 per year, and there's absolutely zero advertising royalty fee required. The franchise agreement operates on a standard renewable 5-year term. Wait, a flat fee instead of a percentage of gross sales. That almost sounds too good to be true for the owner. So what does this all mean?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of franchise buyer psychology and industry norms, that flat royalty structure is arguably the most disruptive financial advantage in their entire system.
Can you break down the mechanics of why that matters so much over the lifespan of the business?
Certainly. In standard food franchising, the franchisor typically takes a percentage of your gross sales every single month, usually ranging from 5% to 8% into perpetuity.
Yeah, that adds up.
And on top of that, they often mandate another 2% to 4% contribution to a national advertising fund. So if a franchisee builds a highly successful location generating, for example, $500,000 in revenue, a 10% total fee structure means they are sending $50,000 back to the corporate office every year.
Right. And if they work harder the next year and drive revenue up to $700,000, their penalty for that success is having to send $70,000 back to corporate. The percentage model basically constantly suppresses their expanding profit margins.
Precisely. It can create real friction between the franchisee and the franchisor. However, by instituting a flat royalty fee capped at up to $3,000 annually, Repicci's fundamentally realigns the financial incentives. Once the franchise hits that $3,000 threshold for the year, every single marginal dollar of profit generated above that stays entirely in the owner's pocket.
That drastically accelerates the return on investment. But from an analytical standpoint, why would the franchisor do that? Why would they willingly cap their own upside and leave that much money on the table?
Because the franchisor's primary revenue mechanism is tied to the supply chain we discussed earlier, the centralized manufacturing in Tennessee. They generate their margin by supplying the authentic gelato and Italian ice to the franchisees.
I see.
Therefore, their ultimate goal is to incentivize the franchisee to move as much volume as humanly possible. By capping the royalty fee, they empower the franchisee to aggressively pursue growth, book larger events, and expand their wholesale accounts without the burden of percentage-based fees just dragging down their profitability. The franchisor wins when the franchise orders more product to meet massive local demand.
That alignment of incentives makes multi-unit expansion highly attractive. I mean, if you were a semi-absentee investor or a corporate escapee aiming to build a scalable empire rather than just buying yourself a job inside a food truck, this structure is tailored for you.
Absolutely.
You could deploy 3, 4, or 5 of these mobile units across a territory. You know exactly what your capped royalty costs will be for each unit. You can hire managers to run the trailers at massive community events all weekend, simultaneously scale up your wholesale prepackaged cups to local institutions during the week, and retain the vast majority of the wealth your infrastructure is generating.
It operates as a highly sophisticated wealth-building mechanism, utilizing a century-old artisan product as the vehicle. It provides the scalability of a large franchise operation while entirely removing the traditional anchor of commercial real estate.
It truly does reframe how you look at building a food business. So let's bring all these strategic threads together for the listener. We began by examining the frustration of the traditional corporate path and the terrifying capital requirements of brick-and-mortar real estate. And what our deep dive has uncovered is a franchise model designed to systematically sidestep those traditional pitfalls.
A complete paradigm shift.
Yeah. You have the foundational advantage of a 100-year-old authentic Italian recipe that effectively solves the veto vote and generates organic demand. You are deploying that product through a highly agile, tech-enabled, mobile model that actively hunts down high-intent customers, balanced by a stable wholesale revenue stream.
And of course, it's all governed by incredibly favorable unit economics.
Exactly. Specifically, a flat royalty structure designed to accelerate the franchisee's personal wealth creation.